When Churchill brought cannons to a London gunfight, it's January 3, 1911, and we are in the middle of an epic gunfight in London. I'm not kidding, this isn't some battlefield miles away, this is Sidney Street. A normal residential road that has turned into a literal war zone. 200 cops and elite soldiers are in a massive shootout with just two guys barricaded in a house. And the craziest part? The future Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, is right there, watching the whole thing with a top hat on. Legend says a bullet literally tore through his hat. This wasn't just a police raid, it was a siege, a media spectacle, and one of the wildest days in London's history. But what if I told you this insane battle wasn't the beginning of the story? What if it was the explosive ending? To understand how a London neighborhood became a shooting gallery and why the government brought cannons to a gunfight, we have to go back 3 weeks, to a dark night that started it all. The Houndsditch murders. It all starts on the night of December 16, 1910. A guy hears a weird hammering sound coming from the back of a jewelry shop. He thinks it's a robbery, so he calls the cops. But these weren't just any burglars. These guys were a gang of Latvian revolutionaries, radicalized by a brutal crackdown back in their home country. Some people say they were part of a group called Flame, and they weren't just tunneling into the vault for money. They were trying to fund their revolution. This is next level. A single unarmed cop knocks on the door where the gang is hiding. The conversation is sketchy, and it sets off every alarm bell in his head. So he goes to get backup and returns with 9 other officers, armed with literally just wooden sticks and whistles. They had no idea what they were walking into. The second a sergeant pushes his way in, the gang unleashes on them with modern, semi-automatic pistols. It was a complete massacre. Sergeant Robert Bentley is shot and collapses, dying. Sergeant Charles Tucker is killed instantly. Another cop, Walter Choate, is riddled with bullets while fighting one of the gunmen. In the total chaos, one of the gang members accidentally shoots their own leader, Gardstein, in the back. The gang grabs their dying leader and disappears into the night, leaving behind total carnage. 3 police officers were dead or dying, and 2 others were seriously hurt. This was one of the deadliest attacks on police ever in Britain during peacetime. The entire city was freaking out. A gigantic manhunt begins for the escaped gang members. The public wanted justice, and the ambitious young Home Secretary, Winston Churchill, was under massive pressure to do something big. The siege of Sidney Street, the manhunt continues into the new year. On January 2, an informant gives the police the tip they've been waiting for. 2 of the fugitives, Fritz Svars and William Sokoloff, are hiding in a room at 100 Sidney Street. The informant warns them. They're loaded with guns, and they will not be captured alive. This time, the police are not playing around. In the freezing cold before sunrise, 200 officers quietly surround the building and get all the neighbors out. By daybreak, the stage was set for an epic showdown. At 7:30 a.m., the cops throw some pebbles at the window to signal it's over. The gang's response? A terrifying hail of automatic gunfire. The battle had begun. An officer, Detective Sergeant Leeson, is immediately shot in the chest. It becomes obvious this is an impossible fight for the police. They were completely outgunned. Their old revolvers were useless against the gang's insane firepower. So they call the boss, Winston Churchill. He's literally in the bath when he gets the news, and he makes a crazy decision: send in the army. This almost never happened. They were deploying the military against criminals in London. So 21 elite marksmen from the Scots Guards show up with brand new, modern Lee Enfield rifles. This completely changes the game. The soldiers' superior firepower absolutely shreds the building's upper floors, forcing the 2 gunmen downstairs. The gun battle raged for hours, and huge crowds gathered to watch. News cameras were there, filming one of the first major news events ever. And right in the middle of it all was Churchill. He shows up around noon and walks right into the danger zone to watch and even direct the attack. People immediately started asking, is this guy a hero or just looking for camera time? Then, as the gunfight rages on, Churchill approves bringing in artillery. I'm not joking, they were rolling out actual cannons for a gunfight in the city. The Inferno, but they never even got to fire the cannon. Around 1 o'clock, just as the artillery is arriving, smoke starts pouring out of the windows. The house was on fire. No one knows for sure how it started. The London Fire Brigade arrives, ready to put it out. But then, Churchill makes his most insane decision yet. He tells the firefighters to stand down unless the fire starts to spread to other buildings. His logic? Why risk more lives for two guys who had declared war on the city? So, as the police and soldiers aimed their guns at the exits, they just let it burn. The last gunshots from inside were heard at 2:10 p.m. The house became a roaring inferno, and the roof and floors collapsed. Later, they found the charred remains of the two gunmen, Svars and Sokolov. One looked like he died from the smoke, the other from a bullet. But the tragedy doesn't end there. When firefighters finally moved in to put out the last of the fire, a wall collapsed. District Fire Officer Charles Pearson was fatally injured. He held on for 6 months before dying, becoming the final victim of this insane siege. In total, the chaos that started at the jewelry shop ended up killing 3 policemen, 2 anarchists, and 1 firefighter. Conclusion: after the fire, the fallout was huge. Everyone started criticizing Churchill for being right in the middle of the action. His biggest political rival even roasted him in Parliament, basically asking, I get what the photographer was doing there, but what was Churchill doing? The siege sparked massive arguments about everything: immigration, gun control, and whether cops should have better guns. For some, seeing soldiers on London streets was terrifying, like a police state. For others, it was the only way to deal with a violent new threat. And what about the mystery man, Peter the Painter? He was never found. He just vanished, becoming a total London legend. Some people think he was a real gang member named Jacob Peters, who was found not guilty and later became a top official in the Soviet secret police, the Cheka. But Peter the Painter's true identity is still a complete mystery. His legend, and the incredible news footage of Churchill in his top hat, made sure the siege of Sidney Street would never be forgotten. A day when a revolution and the government collided in a storm of fire and bullets on a quiet London street. So, I have a final question for you. What do you think about Churchill's actions here? Was this the decisive leadership of a future wartime prime minister? Or was this the craziest political stunt of all time? CTA. If you think this story was insane, you won't believe the secret plots that happened inside the walls of the Tower of London itself. If you loved this crazy dive into history, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts on Churchill's command in the comments below. See you in the next one.